Ghost Recon Breakpoint had a very poor launch, as I'm sure most of you all know. The game had tons of issues, but over time, and with Ubisoft Paris listening to the feedback of their community, the game gradually became much better over time. And I've been wanting to make a video highlighting a lot of the positives from Breakpoint, because there are a good amount of them, and goes to show just how much potential this game had if it wasn't bogged down by questionable design choices and unwanted looter-shooter mechanics. One of the first and most obvious things Breakpoint did right is in its animations. This is a clear area of huge improvement over Wildlands, and even though Wildlands is objectively the better game, Breakpoint certainly improved on animations across the board. Your character's movement looks far more realistic, even if it can be a bit unresponsive at times, and most importantly, the knife takedowns are some of the best I've seen in any single player game, and far surpass what Wildlands had. Most of them feel a lot more realistic, in which the enemy you go to take down will actually struggle and fight back. It feels way more grounded, as in most games the enemies don't even try to defend themselves in the slightest. That mixed with the amount of variety in the takedown animations and different types of animations for whichever knife you have equipped makes for some of the best looking takedown animations in this kind of game. And going back to your character's movement for a second, I love that you can tell where and how your character is injured based on their movement. Since Breakpoint made it so your character can actually be critically injured and you need to bandage to fix the injury. I'll touch more on that later, but I love that you can actually see that your character is wounded based on the animations with them limping around. Now, second is obviously the visuals. This is an incredibly good looking game. People say it all the time, but if you took the visuals and animations of Breakpoint and paired that with the general design and world of Bolivia from Wildlands, you would have a perfect blend of a Ghost Recon open world game. Breakpoint is still, in my opinion, one of the most visually impressive games that Ubisoft has made, and it could have been even better if it was set in a more visually pleasing setting like Bolivia. They made some significant improvements to the Anvil engine with Breakpoint, and if the next Ghost Recon game looks even better, which one would expect it will, we are in for a treat. A lot of the things Breakpoint did right weren't actually features on launch, but were rather added through continuous updates during the game's life cycle. One of the first and most important was immersive mode. One of the biggest criticisms for Breakpoint on launch was the unnecessary addition of looter-shooter mechanics with colored rarities, gear scores, and leveling systems which should have never been in a Ghost Recon game. It's literally everything everyone was sick of in one game. In fact, if you've seen the gameplay of the new Suicide Squad game, it has all of those things as well, and is getting very similar backlash and criticism. But thankfully, we got immersive mode in Breakpoint, which strips out all of those unwanted mechanics and focuses on giving the player a more immersive, true Ghost Recon experience. So rather than relying on finding higher level gear and weapons, it's all about survival and actual ability. It puts a much bigger focus on patient and tactical gameplay, which is what you want from a tactical shooter series like Ghost Recon in the first place. Another one of the biggest additions that came through an update was the addition of AI teammates. Now, this change took much longer to come to the game than immersive mode did, since Breakpoint wasn't designed with the AI squad in mind. But Ghost Recon has always been about squad gameplay, so the lone wolf approach for Breakpoint didn't make a lot of sense. I get they were going for a survival experience where you're by yourself on this deadly island, but having the AI squad to coordinate and command has always been one of my and many others' favorite parts of Ghost Recon. But again, give them some credit here for admitting they were wrong for not including the squad in the game and bringing the AI teammates into Breakpoint, giving the people what they wanted. It works pretty much exactly how it does in the previous games and was a much needed addition. Now, I know this one is a bit debatable, but I personally have come to like the addition of survival elements in Breakpoint. Granted, it can feel a little gimmicky sometimes, but I think having to rest at bivouacs, having limited stamina, needing to drink water and patch up severe injuries only adds to the more hardcore and immersive experience. These weren't things present in the previous Ghost Recon games, and this is one of the few new additions that were positive and a good way to try and innovate for the series, or at least in my opinion. I just wish they went more in depth with it, because like I said, it can feel more like a gimmick at times moves as opposed to an in-depth feature. For example, you can only get injured in 3 places, and you're the only one who can get injured. It would have been really cool if enemies and your teammates could get injured as well, but perhaps that's something they can expand upon in the next Ghost Recon game. As I said though, I really like the introduction of survival mechanics, and actually wish they felt more in depth and prevalent in the game. And finally, while I'm not a huge fan of this game's story, you know who I am a big fan of? Jon Bernthal. He's one of my favorite actors, and this type of role in Breakpoint is absolutely perfect for him. I mean, Ubisoft got the Punisher in Ghost Recon. Well done, Ubi. Cole Walker is far and away the best character in this game, and Jon Bernthal absolutely nailed it. It makes me wish we could see more of this character. Overall though, those are most of the major things I feel Ghost Recon Breakpoint did right. Obviously, it was a very mixed game for a lot of people, but over time and after all those updates, I think the game is significantly better and I actually enjoy it quite a lot. That doesn't mean there's still not some fundamental flaws with the game and things that can't be changed through updates, but I'll touch on those in my video on what Breakpoint did wrong. But feel free to let me know in the comments what you feel Breakpoint did right and why, and if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you considered leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you're new. And other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, everybody.